Don Baham, a community access television producer and the host of an ongoing weekly cable television series, Conversations with Dr. Don. I'm also a retired clinical psychologist and a certified Creole, born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana. The program you're about to watch, one of a series of 16 or so individual broadcasts, came about because I wanted to record and share with you highlights of the 2007 Creole Heritage Celebration in the beautiful and historic city of Natchitoches in northwest Louisiana. I wanted to do this because I'd heard good things about this organization of Creoles from a number of sources. An organization that tracks the Creole diaspora? When I grew up in New Orleans in the 30s and 40s, I knew of no formal organization of Creoles like the Creole Heritage Foundation of today. I only knew of the local, more or less, neighborhood social organizations like the Autocrat Club in New Orleans. Well, like so many young Creoles in the 40s, returning from military service to other parts of the country, I lost touch to a large degree with the New Orleans Creole-style community. Now, the city of Los Angeles Creole community in the 50s through the 70s provided a modicum of Creole community, but nothing like the Creole community in New Orleans in the 30s and 40s. And then moving out of Los Angeles proper into the larger Los Angeles area suburban community further isolated me from my cultural upbringing, and not to mention moving to Oregon 13 years ago. Ever find yourself in a place where you see someone that has a look or a flavor about them that suggests that they might be a Creole or a whatever, only to discover that it is more how they look physically that caused your misperception? Yeah. Of course, I love where I live now in the rainy Pacific Northwest, but if there are any Creoles up here, I haven't seen any. So that's why I decided that I had to come to the celebration. And I'm so very glad I did. I can't put into words the feelings of joy and connection that I felt at the celebration and am still feeling today. That feeling of joy and connection was certainly encouraged and facilitated by the warm and gracious welcome and ongoing support and assistance of Mrs. Janet Rabare Colson, the Executive Director of the NSU Creole Heritage Center, and her eager, dedicated staff. I can't thank Mrs. Colson and her staff enough. I believe that the flavor and essence of what it's like to be Creole comes through in the speeches and presentations that you will see and hear in the series of broadcasts that comprise the complete program. I believe that whether or not you're a Creole, you're bound to learn more about us, our heritage, and our love of life. I hope that after viewing any or all of this series of programs, you viewers might become encouraged to find more of the fun and love of life in your own particular culture. So, enough of my talk, and on with the program.
you about that tonight at 7 o'clock, and it is a ticketed event, so you want to be sure and get your tickets. At this time, we're going to have Miss Sandra come up and give us her information in this session. The Creole language.
I asked for another mic. Good afternoon. My name is Sandra Biado. I'm not accustomed to standing in one place, so I've asked for another mic so I can move slowly while the gentleman does his filming. I am going to speak this afternoon a little bit on Creole language. I'm no authority. I'm no authority on the matter. I just have grown up speaking French with my grandmother. And it was actually a gift that I probably didn't recognize at that time. But being 46 years old and realizing what a gift that was, it has truly blessed my life. Children who learn languages are usually more intelligent, if you will, because it strengthens the dendrites and helps them to be more creative. Not that I'm saying I am by far anyone that is extremely intelligent, but it has opened a whole new world to me. I'm currently employed with the Lafayette Parish School System. As an administrator, I'm principal of a World Languages Academy, which has truly become a blessing. This is my second year there. The first year we offered Spanish immersion, and this year we have French FLES as well. FLES is where French is taught as a core subject. Let me start talking a little bit about myself, and if you don't mind, I'm going to travel down. Okay. I am the wife of James Biado, one of the panelists earlier, better known as T-Boy. I am Sandra T-Boy, and we have been married for about 23 years, known each other for 30, so we were high school sweethearts. In the community in St. Landry Parish where I grew up, when I was 11, my mother and father divorced, and consequently it was a natural thing to come home and live with your parents during that time. And my mom and my grandmother spoke a lot of French. Her sisters, it was a joyous time for me. As I said last year, it's nothing like being a teenager and learning about the birds and the bees by two old French women and sitting on the porch. My Aunt Versie would come over every morning at the crack of dawn because she had already been up cooking her dinner. Had cooked her dinner, washed all her clothes, and she'd come drive up to my grandmother's in her little Pinto and get out and say, "Oh, ma chère vieille sœur, c'est une bonne journée," which means, "Oh, my dear sister, it's a great day." And they would start their day off that way, and they'd have coffee. Or Mr. Mitch, who was an elderly black man that lived across the tracks, across the highway, he'd come over, "Oh, Madame Lacan, vous avez du café aujourd'hui? Do you have some coffee for me?" And my grandmother always had coffee. You could stand the spoon in the coffee, but it was in a demi-tasse, a little cup. So I'll start this by saying bonjour, which means how are you? Hello. Comment ça va? Ça va bien? And you know that exchange very well. It's an unfortunate thing, though, over the years that our children, and I'm going to speak in my age category, we've kind of lost that language because It wasn't something that was practiced. It wasn't something that was promoted, because I guess during my mom's time, and you'll see a film, and I'll ask you to bear with me, it's not quality, it's just a family film. During that time, when she was growing up and going to school, it was the practice of not to speak French rather than to speak French or to speak Creole or whatever you want to call it. There are many different dialects in South Louisiana and in North Louisiana. There's a Coudi-Vini, there's, let's see, let me think of a patois, if you will, and sometimes it's hard to understand. There are some areas, like in Pointe-Coupee Parish, that have I call it a more anglicized dialect of the French, and whereas in St. Martin Parish, you have that Coudi-Vini stuff, Coudi là-bas, vini ici, and all that. And so it's just like the English language. There are many slangs and different terms that we use, and you just have to kind of really be in tune with it and listen. I'm going to play a video of my father-in-law's 80th birthday celebration. And in our Creole culture, just as all of you well know, anything to celebrate an event, we must have food, we must have family, and we must share stories. I'm not sure where in the video, if I can find it in a little bit, my son's friend also had on video my father-in-law. He's a traiteur. Do you all know what that is? Anybody? A treater. Well, he treats for warts. And I'm going to hopefully be blessed with the gift of treating for warts. So maybe next year when I come, I'll be able to treat anybody who has a wart. But anyway, he's treating for warts, and he's done that for many, many years. And he was also a school administrator. So you can about imagine being on a school campus and they go, "Mr. Beardo, can you please treat, my wart," or whatever. And he'd stand there and treat their warts and treat cow warts and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, let's see if I can be mechanically inclined here.
Yes, sir.
That's not what I want to do. Okay, wait. Okay. Okay, Curtis, you can come do it. Turn it on. That's why you have technical support. No, didn't do it.
Hey, young man.
Okay, he knows which one to find.
All right. All right. Excuse me, I got my hand there. Loaded.
Yes, sir. Jeb, you're so cute. Shut up.
That's Jeb. That's our youngest.
Wait,
No.
what does it stand
No, you can't. Turn it off.
for? Why?
Because.
Will you tell me, James?
I don't know.
Wait,
No.
what does it stand for?
No, you can't. Turn it off.
Can we get to the menu? Is that possible? Possible.
Huh?
Oh, great. You just.
Recorded then.
That's Kelly. Family, of course. That's important. Oh, that was the wart treatment. Can you get that, Curtis?
Like clean shirt.
suscripteurs, you don't thank them. You don't offer them anything in payment. You don't do that. It's because it's a gift that they have from God. So they don't believe in being thanked or given any kind of monetary reward. It's kind of
There it goes. No, unfortunately, it's her foot, and there's part on the side of her foot.
whoever it is.
And Terrence sang us in the same room. That was all filmed. But it had been filmed, but that last night particularly was the night that they
If it doesn't fall, then it's not a war. It's not a war, right?
And we'll get you to the French-speaking segment as soon as we can figure out how to get there. He was treating for her wart, and of course, in traiteur terms, you're not supposed to ever say thank you, because if you say thank you, you've just broken the treatment. So she just kind of tapped him on the shoulder, and he was like, "Okay, it's finished." You know, he didn't want her to say thank you because it wouldn't work. Can we get to the menu? Remember, with all the blocks.
It looks like that, yeah. But it's always that kind of.
This is Goody, better known as Gary Million, who is a cousin. Oh, that's our niece. That's Hannah. That's my son Jack, my daughter Jillian, my son James. I should say our son James.
Don't put it on me.
Okay, here we go. That's it.
I know your eyes are relatively adjusted to the light.
Yeah. Okay, remember, keep going all the way over. Keep going back with the arrow. That way. Yeah. Go. August 4th, the last one. Yeah.
Don't put it on me.
Okay. The three participants on our little conversation panel is my stepfather, Mr. Oris Menard, my father-in-law, James Bido, and my mom, Virgie.
Pour faire du sirop. Ouais. Il y avait ces gros chaudières là, que ça fait du sirop.
Non, on faisait ça, on avait ça s'appelle un sucrerie. Ouais. Et nous appelions ça, c'était une famille qui avait, de certaines familles qui avaient une sucrerie. Et ça faisait du sirop là. Et c'est là qu'on halait les cannes.
Et toi, Antoine?
Moi, j'ai été avec mon papa à la sucrerie. Et là, mon papa plantait du coton, des maïs, des patates.
Oh, des patates.
Et on ramassait ça. Et là, j'ai été à la sucrerie avec mon papa. Et là, ça m'a donné un petit brin du jus quand ça bouillait pour faire le sirop. Et ça m'a donné un petit brin du vin. C'est comme un petit vin avant ça cuit ça. Pour faire le sirop, je ne connais pas quoi.
Le jus de canne.
Le jus de canne.
Ouais. Vous l'avez vu ça d'être cuit, du sirop? Vous avez vu ça, comment c'était dans le vin?
Ah oui.
Comment ça bouille?
C'était une place où on restait. Tout le temps, on n'avait pas pu travailler. On buvait du jus, on chutait les cannes.
Oui. Et pour ça, pour couper les doigts, ils vont souvent éplucher les cannes.
Oui, éplucher les cannes.
Moi-même.
Mon papa épluchait les cannes pour nous autres et coupait ça en quatre.
Oh oui.
Et là, dans ce temps-là, c'était... Dans ce temps-là, c'était les cannes bleues.
Oui.
C'était les cannes qui n'étaient pas dures.
Ça s'appelait ça les rubans bleus.
Les rubans bleus. Et c'était ça s'appelait le sirop avec aussi.
Justement.
Papa, il y avait un sucrier ici.
Oui, c'est...
On On avait 3 sucreries à l'entour ici.
Oui.
Dans l'Anse.
3 différentes familles qui avaient chacun un sucrerie.
Comment son nom? L'homme.
Qui c'est les familles ici?
Oh,
C'était un frulot, et 2 qui étaient des aux Indes.
et il y avait un dans l'Anse et tout. Ça, c'était pour pas l'autre, t'avais ça. Comment il s'est fait tuer. C'est Bob le Ray. Vous vous rappelez pas, il y avait une sucrerie dans l'Anse. C'est là où moi j'ai été avec mon papa.
Je ne me rappelle pas. C'était dans mon temps.
Yeah. Non.
Si? Non, c'est pas bon.
Pas bon, c'est pas bon. Non.
Ça fait genre de l'entendre mon papa.
C'est Bras, t'avais ça.
Oh oui.
C'est Bras, t'avais ça.
Et bras, c'est bien, hein?
Oui, Bras.
Simeon?
Qu'on fait...
Abraham Simeon. C'est le papa Abraham Simeon, t'avais la sucrerie.
Oh oui.
Direct au coin.
C'était
C'est
pas
là
loin.
que j'allais avec mon papa quand j'étais petit.
Ça n'a pas longtemps en Terrence?
Je connais pas qui sont parents, peut-être. I don't know, c'est
Ouais,
peut-être.
c'est ça. Tu peux me dire qu'on fait les jeunes filles et les garçons parlent pas français aujourd'hui?
Ouais,
Qu'on
ça
fait...
ne pratique plus, ça. Pas de ça dans les maisons, dans les familles.
C'est ça.
Et les enfants n'apprennent pas parler français parce que la personne alentour qui parle français.
C'est juste parce que c'est pas pratiqué ou c'était peut-être...
On est rendu ici,
C'est pas
on est rendu
pratiqué.
ici tant des Américains.
Ouais, c'est
On
pas pratiqué.
a oublié notre français.
Oui.
Oui.
La raison que ça parle pas, c'est parce que le mouvement et le papa parlent en anglais. Et nous autres, quand notre mouvement et notre papa parlaient juste en français, quand nous autres on était petits.
Ouais.
Et là, mon papa voulait parler américain. Il parlait en anglais. Et bien, il pouvait parler en anglais, il nous parlait en anglais. Mais notre premier langage était français.
Français, oui.
That's it. Quand il nous a montré notre prière en français.
Oh oui.
Vous connaissez votre prière en français?
Non, ça, on n'a pas appris. Ma maman pouvait dire sa prière en français et mon papa aussi. Mais on n'a pas appris ça, dire la prière en français. Et je peux dire quelques mots.
Moi, j'ai oublié. Et je pouvais le dire tout.
Okay, I'm going to resume it in a minute. I just needed to kind of bring you up to snuff what they were talking about. They started off the conversation talking about when they were little kids going to what's called a sucrier, which is a sugar mill, and how their parents would cut cane and do that. And my mom began to talk about her father peeling that sugar cane and cutting it into four pieces so they could chew on it, and it was like a little treat for them. And I interjected myself into the conversation so that we could start talking about, well, why do we not speak more French in our homes, especially young folks my age? And he says, my father-in-law and mother-in-law, my mother, talk about French being their first language that they spoke at home, but then when things became Americanized, they talk about les Américains, the Americanization of Louisiana, and how when schools, it became mandatory for them to go to school, and you couldn't speak French, and you got in trouble, and sometimes you even got spankings or whatever from the school officials for speaking French. You were taught that speaking our language, French, Creole, patois, whatever you want to call it, but speaking Louisiana French was a bad thing. It's kind of like the panel this morning was talking about having a 1/32 drop of Negro blood would make you Negro or black or whatever. that's considered to be a bad thing. So when we start teaching our children that to be a certain way is a bad thing, when one is better than the other, that's when things kind of got what I consider to be a little mixed up. And we've sent some very poor messages about learning to speak other languages. In my halls at my school, I have children as young as 4 years old that can come up to me and say, ¿Cómo está? And I'll say, muy bien. This is a 4-year-old asking me how I am in Spanish. Or I'll have another child in the 3rd grade come up to me and, Madame Biado, ¿Cómo ça va aujourd'hui? Ça va bien? And I'll say, ça va bien et toi? Now, vous in French, comment vous est, is actually the proper way, especially when you're speaking to an elderly person. You never say toi. My grandmother would have washed my mouth out if I had referred to her as a toi, because that's kind of like not giving the respect that you're supposed to give to an elderly person. I'm going to continue the video, but anyway, they go on to talk about all of that, and they were talking about who had a sugar mill, and you'll notice that sometimes they interject Anglo words, if you will, American English words in their conversation. But they did that all the time, especially the group of folks my mom's age, because, well, it was easy. Or like my Aunt Versie couldn't say hamburger in French. She's saying, bon hamburg. You know, there's that kind of thing. It was real, they used the language interchangeably, and I think that's how slang and a lot of that patois came about, because it became more Americanized than it should have been. We'll continue. I'm pointing to the wrong thing. I told you I wasn't techie.
Sali Marie, plein de grâce.
Now they're talking about prayer.
Seigneur est avec vous, vous êtes bénie et toutes les femmes de Jésus, les fruits de vos entrailles bénis.
Vous connaissez votre prière en français, non?
Non, ça de Marie, oui, mais j'ai jamais appris mes prières. Ma grand-mère se mettre dans genoux auprès d'elle et me dire notre Père. Et j'ai jamais pu l'apprendre. Je connais ça de Marie, plein de grâce, ça comme notre Père, croise en Dieu, tout ça. Mais pas tous mes prières. Voilà. Quand vous étiez petit garçon, vous parlez juste français?
Non, on ne parlait plus en anglais.
Avant vous n'êtes à l'école.
Mais moi, papa a parlé en français et anglais.
Et anglais.
Et un tas de fois, spécialement mon papa, un tas de fois, il parlait avec les autres en français aussi.
Parce que
mais pas autant. Ouais. Mais mon papa, il parlait en français avec les autres. Et on répondait en français. Tous les bétails dans la cour étaient nommés
en français.
On avait tous les bétails parlaient français.
On était tout le nom français. Jusqu'au chien.
Ça connaissait, tu passais. To get you in on the joke, he was talking about, my father-in-law was saying that his mother spoke French and English. His father spoke mostly French, and he said not only did my dad speak French to us, but he spoke French to the animals, and the animals understood French. So that's why we were all laughing. You know, tous les bétails connaissaient comment parler français. And so it kind of gives you the, it must have been a very comical household to a certain extent. If we were looking in, you know, outsiders looking in, here's the mom speaking to the kids, you know, in English. She might throw in a few French words, like I'll say to our children at home, you know, they all know what dépêche means. which means hurry up, dépêche, dépêche. And, or if, you know, kids always seem to learn the nasty words first. And that's probably because the parents throw them out and they get the context of all of that. But our own children at home, our oldest daughter, and now today, well, let me back up. Let me say this. Today, in order for a high school graduate to graduate from high school, they must have 2 credit hours. If they're going into certain universities, they have to have 2 credit hours of some foreign language, whether it's Spanish or French. There are some schools that teach Mandarin Chinese or Japanese or whatever the case may be. Our daughter, her credit hours are in French. Our oldest son, who's a senior this year, his credit hours are in Spanish. So and our sophomore is taking Spanish this year. And my father-in-law has been fussing at me for years for not teaching his son how to speak French fluently. And I used to speak French very well, very fluently, but I have no one to practice it with. I mean, my mom, we may have a conversation every now and then, especially when you don't want the kids to understand what you're talking about. But as far as sitting down and causing, as my husband used that French word at the panel this morning, and I was so proud of him. Causing means to sit down and just kind of relax and have a conversation. And, you know, it reminds me of Sunday afternoons and the breeze blowing on the porch and everybody having homemade ice cream or something. That's what a causate, to just have a conversation. Well, let's finish this and then we're going to have a little conversation ourselves.
Je vais passer au bien ici.
Je vais passer pour le chien. C'est un chien français.
Ouais.
Papa, quand vous traitez pour les, comment ça dit?
Les poros.
Les poros. Qui a montré?
C'est ma belle-mère qui m'a montré. Elle était rendue 65, 66 peut-être. Elle m'a dit une fois, tu connais, j'appelle bien vieille. Et j'ai un petit garçon, mais il est si jeune. Et je ne crois pas qu'il va être jamais intéressé dans des affaires comme ça. Ça fait que je vais vous donner
le traitement. Le traitement.
Et elle m'a donné le traitement.
En anglais ou en français?
En anglais et français.
Oh, les deux?
Les deux, oui.
Là, vous dites les prières en anglais?
Et français.
2 fois quand il traite?
Oui.
Oh.
Oh, ok. Ça fait, vous traitez en anglais et en français comme vous traitez le poro.
Oui.
Ça fait, vous répétez la prière en anglais et en français.
Et ça, c'est une autre chose qui a pris d'être parvenue aussi, le traitage.
Oh oui, pas
Oui, ouais. Il n'y a plus autant de ça.
Mais on va trop au docteur, tu vois.
Oui.
Si on est docteur,
moi, je crois dans ça beaucoup, parce qu'il y en a du monde qui traite pour les coups de soleil.
Oui.
Et moi, j'ai été traité pour des coups de soleil avec des terribles mal de tête.
Oui.
Et après, j'avais été traité, le mal de tête a passé.
Ah oui, oui.
Et il y en a qui traitent pour des foulures.
Et là,
c'est
Ankle,
okay.
Pour les sprains.
sprain. Yeah.
et là, comme mon petit bébé, elle avait été un coup de soleil, je l'ai emmené la traiter à l'école.
Il avait
un coup de soleil.
cousin Rad traité pour le sang.
Le sang.
Le sang.
Le sang.
Ouais.
Et pas Tante Marie, Tante Nina,
Ouais,
pour la ceinture.
La ceinture.
La ceinture. Et qui d'autre? Il y a toutes sortes de traités. Oh, Timam traité pour les verres.
Ah oui.
Pour les verres. Yeah.
Et qui d'autre?
La ceinture, en anglais, c'est...
Les bordures de serpents.
La ceinture en anglais est
Mon grand-père, elle était pour ça.
shingle.
Shingle. En
Yes.
anglais, c'est shingles, en français, c'est la ceinture.
C'est la ceinture.
Ouais.
Et quand ça va joindre,
Joint.
supposé tu vas mourir.
C'est ça, ça dit.
C'est ça,
Ça disait longtemps passé, mais à ce temps, ça peut traiter ça.
Right.
Mais il y a toujours du monde qui traite pour ça. Mais comme je t'ai dit tout à l'heure, il n'y a presque plus de traiteurs.
Oh non, mais si tu montrais, c'est là qui est ici avec nous autres.
Ouais. Tout.
Il n'y a pas un qui connaît.
Il n'y a pas un qui
Chaque-
connaît traiter rien.
Chaque famille,
Ça veut dire ça au docteur.
Ouais, là, au docteur.
dans mon jeune
Plus
temps,
facile.
dans mon jeune temps, moi, toutes les familles, avec quelqu'un qui traitait pour une certaine chose ou une autre.
Mon grand-père
Pour les
était
voisins.
pour les mordures du serpent.
Serpent.
Des serpents, ouais.
J'avais jamais entendu celle-là.
Well, when you're half blind, you can't see. What we were talking about there is about treaters and the different treaters that they had, and because they didn't have doctors back then, les traiteurs pour le Saint-Yed. We had cousins that treated for bleeding, free bleeding, and they would call him from the hospital in Opelousas, bleeding profusely. I had another great aunt, in fact, Alphonse, cousin. His grandmother treated for le ceinture, which means the shingles. And if the shingles, supposedly, if the rash would meet, then you would pass away or whatever. So, and my grandmother, T-Mom, treated us for worms. I mean, I can remember all of us, when the cousins would come over, she'd sweep us. and supposedly she was doing a treatment to get rid of the worms and all that. Do any of you in the audience speak French, Creole French? I would like for you to come up for just a brief conversation. Alphonse, join us. Parce que je veux ça, s'il vous plaît. Let's go sit up here. Why don't you grab a chair and come sit in the front real quick? Come and join us for a little conversation. We're going to pretend that we're on a front porch. Now, it is true. Yeah, they got to come in. Yeah, that'd be great. Closer together, he says. Closer together.
Y'all need me to blow on y'all like a fan or something? Let's let this lady sit right here and I'll get the fan.
No. I'm not going to sit. I'm just going to kind of.
I'll stand.
Oh, no. I see toi.
All right.
I won't make you feel so old. Come on, Alphonse.
All right.
Okay.
I can only say the bad words.
Yes, and I've taught him very well. Okay. Have a seat. Okay, I'll sit here. Well, how about everybody kind of introducing themselves? You know?
Mon nom est Alphonse Fano, je viens de Lac Charles et j'ai juste commencé à parler français hier.
Mon nom c'est Joyce. Steven, I was, how do you say that? I forgot. J'ai coutume Césaire, mon papa et ma maman. J'ai marié, ça fait sa sœur chez Steven.
Je m'appelle Georges Chevalier, je suis de Natchitoches ici. Ma grand-mère parlait français à la maison, mais pas moi, parce que c'était seulement les adultes qui parlaient français. Mais par la suite, je suis allé à l'université, j'ai appris le français et je suis devenu professeur de français. Voilà.
Mon nom c'est Mildred Pitre, j'ai Balou Astor. Je reste dans Waco, Texas. Je deviens à Natchitoches, Louisiana.
Moi, c'est Angélique Bergeron. Je suis de je suis désolée. Moi aussi, j'ai appris le français à l'école. Mon grand-père, il parle créole, mais c'était perdu dans ma famille. Maintenant, je travaille à regagner la langue et mon gars parlait créole demain avec des autres.
Mon nom c'est Debbie et ma famille vient du lac Charles, mais moi je reste à Lafayette et je travaille pour la paroisse de Lafayette.
Et elle est poète aussi, une poétesse très bien.
Il y a deux personnes qui apprennent appris le langage à l'école. Mais nous autres, on charrait avec notre grand-mère ou notre père, ou les cousins, les cousines. Tu peux raconter des jours quand vous êtes causé avec les pères, les grands-mères, s'il vous plaît?
Moi, je connais parler en français avec mon grand-père et ma grand-mère. Et je restais avec nous autres un peu, pas tout le temps, mais un peu. Et avec les vieux monde, je connais parler en français.
Moi, je coutume parler français avec ma maman, mon père, mes frères et mes sœurs. Et quand j'ai commencé à l'école, moi, je ne pouvais pas dire peine manier en anglais. Mais à ce que je connais qu'au fait, je ne pouvais pas parler peine manier, dire peine manier en anglais, parce que ça parle, maman et papa, ça they didn't talk, they
parlaient pas en anglais.
En anglais. Et so, quand j'ai commencé à l'école, c'est là où j'ai appris pour parler anglais, yes, oui. Mais à ce stade, je n'ai pas personne pour parler avec. Je veux parler, mais c'est tout. Je reste pas.
Avec les gens qui parlent français?
Oh, sorry, exactly. Moi, je reste à LA, California. Yeah, moi, je reste à LA. So, comme ça, tout quelqu'un parle créole, ils ont ici, moi, je suis là-bas. Thank you.
Et merci. Comme je vous ai dit, moi, mes grands-parents ne m'ont pas parlé français, mais j'ai écouté plusieurs fois les mots qu'ils utilisaient, etc. J'ai appris beaucoup de créole, si vous voulez. Mais, même si on dit créole ou cajun ou français, c'est la même langue.
C'est tout la même chose.
So as we are the people that are sitting on the porch, can somebody please let us in on what y'all are talking about?
So
Okay.
tell them what we're saying. Tell them what we're talking about.
We're speaking of when we grew up that we didn't actually speak French ourselves, but our grandparents and our parents spoke French. And they talked French to us, and we answered them back in French and English together, whatever we knew, And but my parents never spoke to me in French. They talked to each other. But my uncles used to sit down, they would talk to me, and they taught me how. But I understand perfect. I can't hold you a perfect conversation, but I understand any and everything you say. When my parents would talk, I knew what they were saying. I don't care how they said it, but I knew it. And even now, I don't live in Lake Charles anymore. I live in Waco, Texas. But I talk to my children sometimes. I have a little grandson that lives with me right now, and I talk to him a little bit. But my husband speaks French also. His parents didn't speak English at all. And I have to tell him sometimes. He grew up in Elton speaking French, but somewhere he lost it. I didn't.
Mais pour moi, je pense que la langue, c'est...
You can say it in French and then tell them to say it in French and then repeat it in English.
D'accord. Pour moi, la langue, c'est très important parce que quand on parle de langue, qu'est-ce qui reste? La culture. Donc, je veux que la langue créole continue et je sais que c'est peut-être difficile à se faire, mais je travaille avec un groupe c'est plutôt des femmes à Pointe-Coupée qui essaient de garder vivant la langue créole à Pointe-Coupée. Et pour moi, c'est très important pour nos enfants et pour l'avenir. I just said that. For me, I think language, the French or Creole language is very important that we keep it alive. It's dying. I'm sad to see. I hoped to meet more Cane River Creole speakers when I came here. I work with a group of Creole speakers in Pointe-Coupée Parish. We meet weekly and speak in the language, and I'm just learning Creole from them. I learned school French. My grandfather and uncle were the last in my family to speak Creole, and I'd love to learn more about my heritage and the language of my family, and I think it's important for our future that we try and keep it going if we can.
I learned from my grandparents. My grandmother, she was bilingual, but my grandfather didn't speak too much English. And I stayed with them a lot when I was little. Et ça parlait en français et en créole. Parmi les deux, moi je voulais toujours apprendre ça. Ils étaient après deux. They would speak French or Creole to each other, and I always wanted to know what they were talking about. And they never would tell me. Alors un jour, j'ai dit à mon grand-père, j'ai dit, Papa, moi je veux parler comme vous autres parlez, je veux faire tout ça que vous autres faites. And so I told my grandfather one day, I said, Papa, I want to be able to speak like y'all speak. I want to do everything that you and Grandma know how to do. Alors il a dit, bon, si tu veux faire comme nous autres, la première chose que tu dois faire, quand tu quittes ton lit le matin, tu vires ta tête vers les Opelousas et puis tu dis grâce au bon Dieu que tu as vu un autre jour. So my grandpa said, well, if you want to be like us, the first thing you do when you get up in the morning, he said you turn your face toward Opelousas and then you thank God that you lived to see another day. Because he was from Opelousas, so to him that was the beginning and the end, you know.
Well, okay, yes. I just wanted to say that what I told everybody was that my grandmother spoke French to friends around her when I was growing up, but they never spoke to me, and I never learned to speak in that way. But several times she spoke to me using just certain words, like some of you will understand. She'd say, "Close your braguette, boy."
Zip your trousers. Zip your trousers.
As an administrator at a school, I do the same thing with my little children. And a lot of them understand, and that's just to keep them out of embarrassment. I want to thank all of you for sharing your talents with us up here today. Our language, whether it's French, Creole, whatever you want to call it, Codafil is one of those organizations here in the state of Louisiana that has really tried to promote our French culture and our French language and through education in the schools. And I had the opportunity to attend a conference 2 Fridays ago in Baton Rouge and was able to meet the French consulate from New Orleans. And French is not a dying language. We just need to make all of those folks in the legislature understand how important it is to continue that growth in our schools. We are stretched here in the state of Louisiana with accountability, and accountability is the leap and the eye leap that you hear in the news where children have to meet certain academic standards. And one of the first things that school administrators and school systems will cut are foreign language courses because they don't see the value in learning another language. And to be quite honest, it is probably one of the most uneducated things for educators to do, is to think that, well, I'm going to use that time for remediation, and in all actuality, they are not helping their children to grow their dendrites and to help them grow that brain mass. And languages and learning languages helps to do that. So make sure that you talk to your representatives about having FLES programs in your schools so that our children can learn the French language. Thank you. Codafield does still exist, but it's not, that's the thing, it's not funded as readily as it should be. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed it. Au revoir, mes amis. Have a good evening.
What a treat to enjoy and to be able to see and listen to part of our heritage. My father is 76 years old, and he's ill now, but he is very much a French-speaking man. But as we say, only when he's with his brothers and sisters down in Eunice. And unfortunately, and all of this is so true, and it's the stories that he's told me about the fact that whenever they were in school that they were not allowed to speak French. And so consequently, when he left his hometown of Eunice, the French stayed there with him, and so we've not learned it. Any of the children have not learned it, and it makes me so sad to hear such a beautiful language and to know that I'm not able to speak it. Okay, we are going into the last session. We have musicians here for your pleasure and for your listening, and if the panel will come forward, we're going to get that set up quickly. We want to remind everybody about the dance tonight.